the greatest animal rights speech ever given. The Culture and Animals Foundation presents Tom Regan.
He's one of the gentlest and one of the strongest men I know. He's the author of The Case for Animal Rights, Dr. Tom Regan. We're gathered here today to declare war on vivisection, to abolish it completely. It is not bigger cages that we want, but empty cages. And anything less than total victory will not satisfy us. The position we hold, the abolitionist position, often is said to be extreme. And those of us who hold it are said to be extremists. The unspoken suggestions are that extreme positions cannot be right and that extremists must be wrong. But I am an extremist. When it comes to rape, I'm against it all the time. I am an extremist when it comes to child abuse. I'm against it all the time. I am an extremist when it comes to sexual discrimination, racial discrimination. I am against it all the time. I am against the abuse of the elderly all the time. The plain fact is, moral truth often is extreme and must be, for when the injustice is absolute, then one must oppose it absolutely, and the injustice of vivisection is absolute, which is why we are gathered here today to declare war on vivisection. Another thing we are said to be, those of us who are abolitionists, is emotional. I mean, shame. We actually have feelings. Like, don't dare love someone, don't dare sympathize with somebody, don't dare care about another's hurt or loss, don't dare feel anger or rage because others are the victims of injustice. I mean, grow up. Move over, Mr. Spock. All this, of course, is utter nonsense. A life without feelings and emotions is the empty shell of human life. Not even life at all. Of course, we know this. Even the apologists for vivisection know this. I mean, I've seen some of them get mighty heated up. Red of face, swollen of tongue, epileptic of complexion, cardiac of heart, screaming of voice, thumping of fist, wide of eye, on end of hair, and wet of pants, angry. So enough of this self-righteous denunciation of emotionalism. It's time to understand that strong emotions, real deep anger, real deep rage, real deep hostility are perfectly natural feelings to have in the face of real deep injustice, which is why we are gathered here today to declare war on vivisection, and we will not be satisfied with anything less than total victory. Another thing we're said to be, those of us who are abolitionists, is ignorant. I mean, we don't know nothing. Ask us about DNA, we think you're referring to some national rifle lobby group. B12, that's a number what gets called in bingo, ain't it? In vivo research, that's something funny those Italians are doing to get their wine to taste as good as made in America. What is basic Stone Age ignorance here? I love this part. of our group portrait, the vivisection industry's picture of us, the picture they pay hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to put out in media. The reason I love it is because it's so demonstrably false. You have to wonder whether these people live on another planet. Don't they know about the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine? Don't these people know about the Medical Research Modernization Committee? Don't these people know about the veterinarians for animal rights, or nurses for animal rights, or psychologists for the ethical treatment of animals, or the 750 practicing physicians in the state of California who have denounced vivisection categorically? Don't these people know about the philosophers Peter Singer and Steve Ponsis and Bernie Rowland and Susan and Laurie Pinson and Sidney Mundy? Don't these people know about the theologians Andrew Lindsay and John Balker? Don't they know about the legal theorists David Faber, Christopher Stone, and Gary Francione? Don't the paid-for apologists of vivisection ever come out of their cushy offices to see what's going on in the real world? Don't they understand that all the people in all the groups I've mentioned, representing the best, the most gifted, the most informed minds of our generation, are speaking out against vivisection, which is why we're gathered here today to declare war on vivisection. We won't be satisfied with anything less than total victory. Misanthropic. That's another thing we're said to be. That's $100 word that means we don't like anybody. Not our mothers or fathers, not our husbands or wives, not our sons or daughters, not our friends or lovers, not even Mother Teresa or Bishop Tutu. What we love are Lassie and Beverly. Animals, and only animals, which is why we want to solve research on animals, according to the medical industrial complex. According to them, nothing would please us more than to have more and more human beings suffer, more and more human beings die. What do you say, Marcus is on? Let's party at Forest Lawn. Who are these people? Who are these people who think they can get away with misrepresenting the truth? Don't these people know about Tom and Bessie Gibbs? Nancy committed in her professional life to working and helping with the elderly. Tom, a medical doctor, helping people of all ages. Don't they know about Dr. Bob Greenberg, a pediatrician who works to keep young children healthy? Don't they know about David and Courtney Allman? David, a school principal, Courtney, a public school teacher. Don't they know about Shelley Shapiro, who works in the emergency room of a major hospital and who does volunteer work counseling rape victims? Don't they know about Molly Cornell, who has taken her own experience with her spina bifida daughter, Cody, and used this as a vehicle for helping other parents whose children are physically or mentally disadvantaged? These are the people. The Tom and the Betsy Gibbses, the David and Courtney Almonds, the Shelley Shapiros and the Molly Cornell. These are the people who are the real heart and the soul of our animal rights movement. People who stand as a part of and not apart from the human rights movement. People who work to promote good and eliminate evil wherever it raises its ugly head, which is why we are gathered here today, you and I, to declare war on vivisection. And we will not be satisfied until we've gotten every animal out of every cage in every laboratory. Of course, what's really ironic is how accurately the medical-industrial complex describes itself in efforts to describe its critics. Consider the charge of ignorance. When we find out that 34% of postmortems reveal that the now deceased victim was misdiagnosed, 34% were being treated with diseases they did not have, 34% were not being treated for the diseases that killed them. When we find out that 60 to 80% of the 250,000 coronary bypass patients who undergo this surgery annually in the United States gain no increased lifespan when compared with patients who forego this radical surgery. When we find out that of the 900,000 cesarean deliveries performed in 1986, A full 24% of all infant births, at least 50%, were unnecessary. When we find out that of 120,000 pacemakers implanted during that same year, more than 50% were not medically indicated. When we learn all this, and there is much, much more to learn, when we find this out, even the most trusting among us must begin to wonder where the charge of ignorance really is. All some people need to do is look in the mirror. What is true in the case of ignorance also is true in the case of compassion. When we find out that 1 in every 6 Americans has no medical insurance, that 1 million Americans annually are denied needed medical care, that the infant mortality rate in the U.S. is among the highest in the world, that a black child born in America is more likely to die before reaching the age of 1 than an infant born in many third world countries, that some 300,000 black children are born in the U.S. every year without their mothers having received a single minute of prenatal care. When we find out that what is true of blacks in America is comparably true of other minorities, Hispanics, people, for example, and Asians. If curative or preventive health care exists, they don't get it because they can't afford it. When we find out that for years the people who receive preferential treatment in the organ transplant program at that holy of holies, the University of Pittsburgh, were not working class people from the steel mills, not working class people from the mines, but potentates from the Middle East who donated hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands to medical school. When we find out that there are almost 1 million elderly people who have incomes of less than $5,500 a year, 2/3 of whom do not qualify for Medicaid. When we find out that 7 in every 10 elderly who live alone face total impoverishment only after 13 weeks in a nursing home. Average cost $22,000 a year. Median income for the elderly, $11,000. When we find out where the truth lies, we find out who lies. Come on, let's be honest. If the medical industrial complex really was as compassionate as they want us to believe they are, it would be out front leading the crusade to make essential health care available to everyone. But they are not out front leading the parade. They are not even in the parade. The last thing the medical industrial complex wants is something other than a profit-driven industry. And just in case you think I exaggerate, just in case you think the medical industrial complex is the medical healthcare industry version of Mr. Goodwrench, consider that the United States is only one of 2 so-called democracies in the world that do not guarantee necessary health care to each and every citizen, regardless of age, regardless of income, regardless of race. Only one of 2. The other democracy, in case you haven't already guessed, is South Africa. The evil of apartheid is cut from the same defective moral plot as vivisection. Both represent the pattern of special privilege over fairness, custom over justice, power over respect, greed over compassion. Which is why those of us gathered here today are united not only in our opposition to apartheid in South Africa, but also in our opposition to apartheid in medical science and medical research. Today we declare war on vivisection, and we will not be satisfied until every animal is out of every cage in every lab. Terrorist. That's the new buzzword the medical industrial complex uses to describe animal rights advocates. We're no longer little old ladies in tennis shoes. Today we're young thugs in face masks, armed with torches and cans of spray paint, out for a clockwork orange evening of fun and games. The problem is the image doesn't correspond to reality. The basic philosophy of the animal rights movement is learn, baby, learn! Not burn, baby, burn. Learn! Learn the truth about how your tax dollars are spent. Learn the truth about the calluses and lack of compassion that so much characterize the medical-industrial complex. Learn the truth about how ignorance and greed find a happy home in the medical community. Learn the truth about how animals are treated in laboratories, what they're doing there to begin with, and why the public health is not being served by this science of death. Learn, not burn, is the real philosophy of our movement. And one part of this learning, an important part, involves the other side of the coin of violence, the side that does not get reported, the side where people in the movement are on the receiving end. People like Jane Tufton from Pennsylvania, who finds dead animals in her mailbox and on her front steps because of her queer views about animal rights. People like Judy Barrett's husband in Indiana, whose car windshield was smashed by neighbors who didn't like his ideas about respect for sentient life. People like Hope Sawyer, who has been told many times by people who disagree with her views about animals, and this a woman in her late 70s, we could touch a match to your place, then what would you do? People like you and I, who are not strangers to threatening mail or phone calls at all hours of the day. Violence is more than a trash grab. The difference is our side of the story, the side where we are on the receiving end, doesn't get told. It should, it would, and it will, because people, responsible people in the media are beginning to understand that something profoundly important is happening. There is a great awakening occurring. The animal rights movement has seized the initiative and is gaining momentum. Our time has come. We're declaring war on vivisection, and we will not stop until we have every animal out of every cage in every laboratory. This declaration of war is not a call to violence. It is a call to peace. The use of violence never really changes anything, only the identities of the agents of violence. Morally, violence is indefensible. Tactically, it is unwise. Trash a lab, and the story that gets told is some irresponsible vandals trashed the lab. The story that gets lost is what was going on in that lab in the first place. In other words, the story that gets told is the one that aids the vivisectors, not one that helps the animals. No, the means we must use to wage our war are those shaped and proven by Gandhi and Martin Luther King, the weapons of nonviolence, but with a few differences. Precisely because those whose interests we represent, the tens of millions of animals in laboratories, precisely because they are unable to tell us what is being done to them, precisely because the government inspection mechanisms for assuring compliance with the law have been shown time and time again to be inadequate. It has been necessary for some in our movement to enter some labs illegally, there to document the waste and evil of vivisection done in the name of science. Just two simple things should be said here. The first is, thank God for the Animal Liberation Front! Thank God for Last Chance! Thank God for Band of Mercy! If it had not been for your courage and your skill, those of us assembled here today would not know what we do. We owe you and we thank you. Secondly, illegally obtained exposés of laboratory atrocities will continue. And they will continue as long as the medical industrial complex refuses to allow unannounced inspections of labs by people from the animal rights movement. Until that day comes, I think it is true. And this is not a threat, this is a fact. Every lab in every research facility is in jeopardy of an unannounced inspection, and I don't mean one done by the government. Because this is war, and we're not going to be satisfied until every animal is out of every cage in every laboratory. Some may say that we ask for too much when we ask for an open door policy concerning lab inspections. Certainly, it will take a great amount of pressure on the vivisection industry to get them to let some daylight in. But there are some glimmers of hope. Edward Allen, remember the name, Edward Allen, is the judge who recently heard the case involving a break-in at the University of Oregon. Judge Allen got a crash course in animal abuse when he was judicially obliged to watch such films as Bad Britches, Unnecessary Fuss, and the rest. He didn't like what he saw. We have had some evidence, he writes. We have had some evidence here as to certain things which have been done which were disturbing to me. Those activities in the labs, he writes, should be free and observable to any member of the citizenry. It would, he writes, Judge Allen writes, it would be highly appropriate to have these facilities open to the public. Open to the public. Right on, Judge Allen. That's what I say. Help us get our message out. Learn, baby, burn, burn, not burn, baby, burn. Know this. There is room in our army for more than the Judge Allens. Anyone and everyone can join and is welcome, including many otherwise good, decent people who currently are in bondage in a medical industrial complex. We welcome you into our lives, if you will but quit the evil of vivisection. In the familiar Christian image, we hate the sin, but love the sinner, or at least we try to. To all you good, decent people currently in the vivisection industry, therefore we issue this healing call. Lay down your weapons. Lay down your scalpels and tallets. Lay down your Pavlovian slings and restraint chairs. Lay down your stereotaxic devices and your roving guillotines. Lay down your wires that shock and blades that burn. Lay down your tanks that drown and chambers that divide. Lay down your sutures that blind and vices that crush. Lay down these weapons of evil and join with us, you scientists who are brave enough and good enough to stand for what is just and true. We welcome you into our ranks that have known the likes of Plutarch and Ovid, Horace and Pythagoras, Plato and Socrates, St. Francis and Leonardo da Vinci, the poets Shelley and Browning, Oscar Wilde and George Bernard Shaw, Colette, Harry Beecher Stowe, Leo Tolstoy, Gandhi, C.S. Lewis, Mark Twain. Join with us on this hard day. Playing in concert with thousands and thousands and thousands of others. We declare war on vivisection. We will not rest. We will not rest can do this, we shall do this. The day will come when all the cages will be empty, when all the animals will be liberated, when all decent, compassionate people can shout with joy, echoing Martin Luther King's famous words, "Free at last! Free at last! Free at last!" Thank you. Free at last! Dr. Tom Regan, you're not wrong. Free at last! Free at last! Free at last! Thank you. Free at last! Dr. Tom Regan, you're not wrong.